All right, so are you ready? Today, we are going deep on this guy, Grant Cardone.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Grant Cardone?
Yeah, he is
Like 10X, always yelling about 10X, right?
very loud.
Real estate and sales and all this stuff. So we got a ton of articles and some excerpts from some books and stuff.
Cool.
A lot of people want to know, what's the deal with this guy? Is he the real deal?
Yeah.
Is it all hype?
That is the question, isn't it?
Right.
He's really built a big brand around this idea of like hustling really hard and taking massive action.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is like how he's tied it all together, right?
Yeah.
So he's got sales and real estate and personal branding, and it's all kind of under this umbrella of the 10X philosophy.
So let's get into that, because that's something I keep seeing too.
Yeah.
10X, 10X, 10X.
Yeah.
And I think my understanding is that it's like more than just setting big goals.
Yeah.
It's about taking crazy action. Like if I think I can do like 1 a week of these deep dives,
Yeah.
you'd probably tell me to do 10 a week.
It probably would.
Right. Something like that.
Uh-huh.
So what is that all about?
So that is where it gets a little interesting, right? So, you think about like typical productivity advice.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like flipping that. He's like, no, you got to work harder.
Right.
And his idea is that most people are just like conditioned to play it safe, to stay in their comfort zone.
Right.
And so he's using 10X as like a way to shock people's system,
Yeah.
to get them out of that comfort zone and be like, what can you actually accomplish if you really push yourself?
So do you think, I see the value in that, right? But do you think there's like, isn't there a limit to that?
Well,
Like how much can you actually push yourself? I could only drink so much coffee before I just vibrate right out of this chair.
Well, and that's where he's talking about like 10X action, right? So it's not just about thinking big, it's about taking action on those big goals. And he argues that when you make that effort, that's when you really see those breakthroughs.
Yeah.
It's not about magically like working 10 times faster.
Uh-huh.
It's about like forcing yourself to find new solutions and overcome these limitations that you think you have and kind of build this resilience.
So instead of aiming for the moon, you're aiming for Pluto.
Yeah.
Right. Like you might not get to Pluto,
Yeah.
but you're going to land somewhere pretty interesting.
Exactly.
Right.
It's about pushing the limits. And he has some pretty specific ideas about how to do that, especially with sales.
Yeah, I was looking at some of his sales stuff, and this guy does not believe in taking no for an answer.
No.
It's like follow up,
Mm-hmm.
build those relationships, and, I think really understand what the customer wants.
Yeah.
But like to an extreme degree.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not putting in 10 times the effort as like the average salesperson, you're just not even playing the game.
And he does get some criticism for that.
Right.
But the interesting thing is that it's not about being pushy.
Right.
He really emphasizes active listening and understanding their problems and how your product is the solution to that problem.
Right.
And I think that is where the 10X mindset comes in, where it's like he's constantly searching for ways to add more value and go above and beyond what people are expecting.
And that seems to lead right into his real estate,
Uh-huh.
which is massive, $2.5 billion in assets.
Big.
Mostly these multifamily properties,
Yeah.
apartment complexes and stuff. Why that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So Cardone is not just looking for any real estate deal. He's looking for those 10X opportunities,
Yeah.
the ones that can give him huge cash flow.
Hmm.
And that's what multifamily does, right?
Right.
Because you have all these units that are providing rental income, so it's more stable
Yeah.
than, say if you had like one commercial tenant.
Yeah, so it's like spreading out that risk a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay. He's not afraid to use debt, leverage, as he calls it, to buy these properties, which I think is a pretty bold strategy.
Yeah, and this is where it gets a little bit controversial, right?
Yeah.
So using leverage just means you're borrowing money to buy these properties.
Mm-hmm.
And it can make you a lot more money, but it can also lose you a lot more money.
So it's higher risk, higher reward.
Exactly. And this is kind of like a core part of his 10X mindset,
Okay.
where he thinks if you want to play at a high level, you got to take risks.
Right.
But, obviously not everybody agrees with that. A lot of people think it's too risky.
Right.
But he seems to like that high stakes game.
He likes that. And he doesn't do it alone either, right?
No.
He has Cardone Capital, which allows like regular people to invest.
Yeah, both accredited and non-accredited investors.
Yeah, so that's interesting because it kind of gives access to these big real estate deals to people who wouldn't normally be able to.
Right, and that's really part of his strategy, right?
Yeah.
He wants to empower people to reach financial freedom.
Uh-huh.
So he's not just doing it for himself.
Right. Right. So is it a movement or is it a business?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
You know, who knows if it's sustainable, but it's an interesting approach.
Yeah. So we'll save that for later.
Yeah.
But there's another piece I wanted to get to.
Okay.
Which is his personal brand. This guy is everywhere.
Yeah.
Books, podcasts, social media, motivational speaking.
He's everywhere.
Like, is he a walking, talking self-help brand?
He kind of is.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of his success.
Right.
He's not just selling real estate or sales training. He's selling this idea that anyone can achieve success if they just put in the work.
Right.
And he's got that relentless attitude.
Uh-huh.
And it's clearly working for him, right? He's built this huge following.
Yeah, so love him or hate him, you can't deny that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like beyond the hustle and the 10X slogans, what's the real message here?
Yeah.
What's he trying to do?
That's a good question. I think it goes deeper than just the money and the success, you know? If you really listen to what he's saying, it's like taking control of your life and pushing past those limitations and, you know, really fulfilling your potential.
Right.
He wants people to be financially free.
Yeah.
But not just so they can, like, buy fancy cars and mansions. It's so that they can, like, pursue their passions and make a difference and live life on their own terms.
So it's like the money is a tool, but it's not like the end goal.
Exactly.
It's about what you do with the money.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's very clear that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right.
He's all about hard work and discipline and sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's about building a sustainable business so you can use that as a way to reach your goals.
Which is interesting because a lot of people criticize him for being too focused on like the material wealth.
Yeah.
Like the hustle at all costs. But he's also advocating for using that wealth to do good.
He is.
Right? To like give back and make an impact.
He is. He talks a lot about philanthropy and using your resources to help others.
Right.
And leaving a legacy, you know, building something that's going to last.
Yeah.
So it's not just about you.
Yeah. If you're pushing yourself that hard, it makes sense that you'd want to use that success for something good.
Yeah, right. Like you climbed the mountain, now how can you help other people climb the mountain?
Exactly. Yeah, so it's interesting because I can see why he's a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you have this like aggressive in-your-face persona, but then there's this other side that's like empowering people.
Right.
You know, push past your limits, do these things that you thought you couldn't do.
And that's the thing with him. He's like a master at branding himself.
Yeah.
And creating this like larger-than-life persona that people react to. And I think underneath all that, there's this message that a lot of people connect with.
Yeah.
About like breaking free from the status quo and like doing something extraordinary.
Right. So it's almost like he's created this character of Grant Cardone that is the 10X philosophy.
Yeah.
But even if it is like a character, the results are undeniable.
Right. He's built a massive business and a huge following, and he's left a pretty big impact.
So what do you think? Has your opinion changed about him at all after looking at all this stuff?
I think I understand him a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like, I think he really is trying to help people,
right,
you know, to reach that financial freedom and to take control of their lives. And maybe his methods aren't for everyone, but you can't deny that he's passionate and he really does believe in what he's saying.
It's easy to get caught up in the controversy.
Yeah.
But I think he's just offering like a different perspective on how to approach life and business. And whether you agree with it or not, it's like you got to admire his commitment to success.
Yeah.
So what's standing out to you the most from all this Grant Cardone stuff?
I think it's how he connects with people on an emotional level. You know, he's tapped into this like deep desire that we all have to achieve something great to leave our mark on the world.
Right.
And he's done it in a way that's relatable. You know, he's not afraid to show his flaws and struggles.
Right.
And I think that makes him more human and more relatable.
Yeah. It's like he's not some guru on a pedestal.
Right.
He's been in the trenches.
Yeah.
You know?
He's struggled and he's come out on top. Yeah. And that makes him seem more authentic.
Exactly. He's walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
He's not just talking.
He is.
And whatever you think of his methods,
you
can't argue with his results.
That's true.
So where does that leave us?
Well,
10X, sales, real estate, personal brand. What's the takeaway?
I think the takeaway is that Grant Cardone is just one perspective.
Yeah.
It might work for some people, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So take what works for you.
Yeah.
And leave the rest.
Exactly.
Right.
And maybe ask yourself,
yeah,
what would it look like to push yourself a little harder?
I like that.
To think a little bigger. to take a little more.
Like, instead of can I do this, it's how can I do this?
Yeah.
Right.
And you might surprise yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to get creative. Maybe you need to find some mentors. Or maybe you just need to develop that never give up attitude.
And you might find those opportunities you wouldn't have found otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like aiming for Pluto and finding a new galaxy.
Yeah. Right. Along the way.
Exactly. It's about pushing those boundaries.
Yeah.
And realizing your potential is bigger than you think.
So even if you're not ready to go full Cardone,
yeah,
maybe his style is a little much.
Uh-huh.
There's a good lesson there
Okay.
about challenging yourself,
Yeah.
thinking bigger, acting bolder, and never underestimating the power of action.
Because at the end of the day, the only limits we have are the ones we set for ourselves.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
That is our deep dive into the world of Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed it.
I hope so. And that maybe it gave you some things to think about. About your own goals.
Yeah.
Take what resonates with you from Cardone's approach. Adapt it.
Yeah.
Make it your own. And keep moving forward.
Exactly.
As always, thanks for listening to The Deep Dive, and we'll catch you next time. I want to leave you with one last thing before we go.
Okay.
Think about one thing in your life. It could be work. It could be a personal project. It could be a habit. And think about it through this 10x lens.
Okay.
Not literally times 10, but just like, what if I push this further? What if I really stretch my goals?
Yeah.
What if I really challenge what I think is possible?
And that's the real power of the 10x idea. It's not a formula.
Right.
It's a way of thinking.
Yeah.
It helps you break out of those limits that you set for yourself.
Instead of saying, can I do this?
Yeah.
It's, how can I do this?
How can I make it happen?
Right.
And you might be surprised at the answers you come up with. Yeah. Maybe it's finding new resources, or maybe it's finding a mentor who's done it before.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just developing that attitude of like, I'm not going to give up.
And maybe it opens some doors you didn't even see before.
Yeah. It's like you're looking for one thing and you find something completely different.
That's that Pluto thing again, right?
It is.
You aim for Pluto, you find a new galaxy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even if you don't want to be like full Cardone,
no,
maybe his style is just not for you. I think there's something there.
There is.
About challenging yourself.
Yeah.
To really think bigger and act bigger and not underestimate what you can do.
The only limits we have are the ones we set for ourselves.
There you have it, folks.
That's it.
That's our deep dive into the world of Grant Cardone. 10x.
10x.
Hope you enjoyed it. Gave you something to think about.
Absolutely.
And as always, thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.